Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I have been doing a lot of old tags for the longest time now, and I decided I'm gonna make my own. I did it, I actually did. So this is my own tag. So it's so easily titled, the Mabon Tag. Basically, I'm in the mood to be posting about the holiday that's coming up, and so here's a tag to go along with it. And of course, it's 13 questions, because why not? So, question number 1. What does Mabon represent or symbolize for you? So for me, Mabon is mostly the time of the witch's Thanksgiving, and I don't really follow it that it's the fruit harvest, because our fruit trees are, like, harvestable in, like, June. So it's not for me like, oh, it's the fruit harvest, because the little bit of fruit that we do have has already been harvested. So for me, this is more of the Thanksgiving meal. This is our gratitude as the year is switching from hot summer into freaking cold winter. It's like not the worst weather. It did get really cold really fast, but for the most part, this is just kind of like the more mellow of the weather temperatures, usually on the colder side. But again, I don't really do like the full harvest vibes. Like, of course I'll decorate my altar with like pumpkins and different things like that, but I usually don't emphasize too much the fruit harvest aspect of it, which a lot of Wiccans specifically do. I focus on it more as the Thanksgiving, so of course we still do our normal Thanksgiving dinner when it's out in November, but for this time of the year, I do plan a feast that is just for me and my family, and I usually do a more witchy feast of sorts. I do a lot of magical cooking and stuff, and that is my main focus for this time. It's also the time for balance, of course, equal day and night, and all of the symbolism that goes along with it. And of course it begins technically autumn. Of course, autumn never actually starts on that day. It usually comes a little before or a little after that day, but it's the marker of when it's like, okay, autumn, it's now time. Question number 2. How do you celebrate the Sabbath or season? So like I said, I like to cook, so I always will do some kind of a feast. Usually I will do some kind of a craft with it. This year I'm doing the gratitude spell, and then I usually try and pick a few deities to work with and honor them during this time. And so for this year, I've already done rituals from the past week or so, talking about different ones that I'll be working with. And of course, I always change it every year. Some years I've done Persephone, which is a really popular one, but this year I'm switching it up a little bit. And then of course, doing the more long-term celebrations is like working on the house and just kind of prepping your house and doing more kitchen witchery and stuff. Question number 3. What Mabon correspondences are important to you? So for me, I really like to incorporate the fall leaves, whether it's the artificial ones I have on my altar, or if I wanted to go out and harvest some out in nature. That's a really huge correspondence for me. It represents this time of the year very well. I'll always include like red as like my main color, and then yellows and oranges. Another one I like to include is the light and dark aspect. So I'll have white and black candles, I'll have sun representations and moon representations, and then of course the deities associated. So right now I'm working with Hel, other years it's been Persephone. There's a lot of deities that are really good for the balance aspect, and also just the beginning of like the cold and the autumn. Naturally, this time of the year is when I bring out like the pumpkin spice and all of the herbs that are actually in it. So like allspice and clove and nutmeg and cinnamon, like the spicy stuff. And like, I love incorporating apple cider as my magical drink instead of like a tea or a coffee. I actually prefer that the most. We gotta just start bringing in more of the spooky stuff, but for Mabon, I try and kind of withhold a little bit, at least in September, for just fall things and not bringing out the spooky, scary skeletons. Question number 4. What was the most memorable celebration you've had? So, I don't know if it would count as this year yet, because I haven't had it. When you're seeing this, it's before Mabon. I think you'll be seeing this after. But when the one that I can think of now, excluding probably this year, because this year I'm very excited for it, was one of the first years after I'd come out of the broom closet. My mom let me go balls to the walls to celebrate. So we did all of the things. We went out, we bought wreaths, and then we crafted them. We went out for a walk and we gathered a bunch of stuff, some leaves, twigs, whatever we could find, and decorated those. And then we cooked a full Thanksgiving meal all the bells and whistles. We cooked a turkey, we cooked stuffing, rolls. I feel like we even did like a casserole. Like we did every dish we normally would for Thanksgiving. And she let me get like decorations for my altar. And that is still such a treasured memory because it was like the first time that I really was like, can we like do something? Like there's a lot to do for it. She was like, yeah, let's do it. It's fine. So that one is always going to have a special place. Question number 5. Do you have a special dish or meal that you prepare? So again, I usually do some variation of a Thanksgiving feast. Normally for Thanksgiving you do a turkey. I felt like doing ham this time, and so that's what I'm doing. But my main dish for Mabon specifically is to do an apple dessert instead of, usually at Thanksgiving we do like a pumpkin pie, but for Mabon I'm doing an apple crumble. Because even though I don't have it as the fruit harvest, I still like the idea of apples at this time of the year because we do have like apple cider, and a lot of people will go apple picking, and you have the poisoned apple and whatever. And of course I honor Adun at this time because she's also associated with apples. So again, even though I don't really count it as the fruit harvest, I still use the apple. And like so many of the scents are apple based, so it just kind of works for me. Number 6, do you celebrate as a solitary or with a group? Again, I'm mostly solitary. I don't think my family will be joining me in any of my rituals really, because they will both be at work. So it's just gonna be me doing my own little witchy thing. Number 7, are there any crafts that you do for Mabon? So again, there's been the harvest wreath that I've done in the past, but this year, again, I'm doing the spell more than an actual craft this time. But I would also eventually love to do like a blanket or something, or like a cardigan that I would make during the Mabon season for the winter. Or really just any like weaving or stitching, kind of pulling in like Frigg's story. Because again, I'm working with these goddesses and gods this time of the year, and that is one of the aspects apparently. Again, I'm still pretty new at learning all about it, but the way they've described it that I've found online is that one aspect of like the feminine magic was in sewing and crafting, and so I love to crochet during the winter months anyways, so I might be incorporating that a little bit as well. Number 8, which myth do you incorporate into your celebrations, such as Persephone when she enters the underworld? So again, usually that's the one everyone goes to, and some years it kind of just depends on what I'm focusing on, but this year I am working with the idea of Hel being the goddess of balance, because she is. Like, she's literally half alive and half dead. And so I feel like that's the opportune deity to work with at this time of the year. I don't really work with the Greek mythology at all, or the Roman. Like, it's just never really been my thing at any point ever. So, like, I have because it's the thing that you do. But this year I'm focusing more on Hel and her aspect, and also the idea of Frigg and her blessing the home and the hearth, and then Adun with her apple, and the idea of immortality and like giving us strength as we move into the winter months. But for the most part, that's the only kind of mythology that I really focus on. And even then, it's not technically part of the myths. Like, there isn't really one that I've found so far for the autumn equinox, so I'm just kind of rolling with it. I thought about doing Baldur's Death at this time, but I think I'm still gonna save that for Samhain. Question 9. Is this one of your favorite celebrations? Why or why not? So I do love Mabon because everybody loves food, and it's the beginning of autumn, which is my favorite season. So it's not my absolute favorite. Honestly, Samhain's still gonna be my number 1, with Yule as a really close second, but I really like the beginnings of autumn. And now that I'm more of a house witch, I'm starting to love it even more because I'm spending more time in the house and happily being my little housewife life over here. And so for me, it's like, this is a really good holiday. Like, there's a lot of good associations for me right now. But that hasn't always been the case, and usually it's more like, I'm ready for Samhain now. But this year, it's going up on the list. Question 10. What are your plans for Mabon this year? So I always do a video on this, so you've already seen my plans, so I'm not going to reiterate that. I'll just have the video on my channel that you can go watch for my plans for this year. But most people don't do that video, so if you do this tag, you can tell us. Question 11. How has your celebrations changed over the years? So again, I used to do very much what everyone else did. So it was, of course, the Thanksgiving. but you honored the goddess and the god in the very specific Wiccan ways, and you had to do it this way. And now I'm just kind of whatever energy I'm feeling for the year, because like I definitely am not honoring the Wiccan goddess and the Wiccan god and how he's slowly dying at this time, but she's getting more pregnant. I'm not about that mythology at all. Like, I don't love the idea of the wheel rotating around a pregnancy, really. That's not my focus in life, ever. So I'm not huge on that, but that was what you were supposed to do for the longest time. So it's only recently that I'm like, we'll change it up. We'll change it up a lot. We're just gonna, you know, honor the goddess that has no husband and has no children and yet takes care of everybody. And yet I also used to not do a feast, and it was kind of a rare occasion that I would actually do it. And now it is a priority. Like, I made sure to put it into the grocery budget. Like, that was the first things that I got, and then make the rest of the budget around it. Question 12. Do you celebrate for a single day or throughout the season? Of course I celebrate throughout the season. And lastly, question 13. Do you decorate your altar or home for Mabon, or do you skip ahead to Samhain? Because I feel like a lot of us, we really like to bring out the spooky very early. And so I feel like the Mabon, like just harvesty, like autumn vibes just kind of gets brushed aside as we bring out the jack-o'-lanterns and the skeletons and the mummies and stuff. And so I'm curious what you guys do, because I always keep my altar dedicated to Mabon as long as I possibly can. It's usually like mid-October I'll switch it out, which I normally do anyways. Some point between I always end up switching them over. It's just how I've always done it. And so the rest of the house and our yard is a different story, because I've already seen houses having their Halloween decorations up and I'm living for it. And I mean, my house is always kind of spooky anyways, because like I have a coffin bookcase that holds my witchy books, and I have a bunch of decor that's up year round. And so it's just bringing out a little bit more spooky time vibes. But I don't decorate for Mabon. Like, I don't bring out just like fall leaves and like wreaths and stuff like that. Like, it switches to Halloween. So anyways, anyone who's watching this is tagged, because again, you're the viewer. You should do it, whomever you are. And if you like my content, do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day. Thank you to my patron. I will have their name over here. And if you want to support me and get access to exclusive content, it's patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.